Discover the incredible transformation of a forgotten mail-order bride rescued by a millionaire. Sarah pushed open the door to the diner, the smell of fresh pancakes and sizzling bacon wrapping around her like a familiar embrace. Another day, another chance. Would it be the same? Her heart weighed heavy with the fatigue of too many dreams crushed beneath the relentless grind of survival. A mail-order bride turned waitress, she felt the world pigeonhole her in defeat. The laughter from children filled the air, but somehow it only underscored the void in her life, a painful reminder of the family she never built. Each morning she woke up to a battle. Could she untangle herself from this relentless cycle of service? Or was she destined to remain just a cog in others' lives, forgotten behind? "Table 4, coffee!" At the veteran's table she smiled and filled mugs, but the warmth of her gestures felt forced. Sarah found some comfort in their gratitude, but whispers from the kitchen and passing patrons always laid a weight on her heart. A second-class existence, they said. The relentless churning of thoughts spilled out like the coffee she delivered. Why couldn't she be more? Why had she allowed herself to decay in unfulfilled potential? She was smart, capable, yet every day felt like she fought against a tide that sought to drown her aspirations. As she poured the last cup of coffee, the door swung open with a gust of cold air, and in walked Jack, a polished newcomer to Big Sky. The way he examined his surroundings, the glint of curiosity in his eye, sparked an unfamiliar sensation within her, a flicker of hope. His eyes met hers, and for a flicker of time she felt seen. That spark ignited when she overheard him pitching ideas to another table about philanthropy, about investing in the community. Something about his presence stirred that heavy weight in her chest. Could someone like him truly care? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days melted into weeks, and as Sarah began collaborating with Jack, the weight of her dreams pushing against suffocation seemed momentarily lifted. He admired her dedication, valuing her input, awakening parts of her she thought long dead. With every brainstorming session, she unearthed layers of herself she barely recognized. Yet with that recognition came a new kind of pressure, the expectations of a world she never felt part of. Slowly, lingering eyes in the diner turned toward them, and whispers thickened like smoke. Could a girl like her from the wrong side of town truly engage with his high-flying world? In a momento of intensity, she confronted Jack, grasping at a swirling confusion. Would she have to choose between the life she built and a new one that dangled just out of reach? Was she ready to rise? Or would she perish beneath the whispers of the past? Just as panic clawed at her chest, a letter arrived, promising an inheritance she never knew existed, clawing at her reality with feral intensity. Her heart raced. Could this letter shift the balance of her existence? Would it shatter the fragile world she was beginning to build with Jack? As she read the daunting details, the reality of her identity hung like a sword over her head. Irrevocable choices loomed, and she had never felt the stakes so high. Would she take the plunge into a world she believed was unattainable, or would she remain forever entangled in yesterday's shadows? A crossroads had emerged, and the weight of expectation bore down harder now, leaving her teetering on the brink of everything she thought she knew. The shadows thickened, and with them an undeniable urge to break free, or succumb to the desperate pull of the past lingered, leaving only questions in their wake. The letter trembled in her hands, its crisp paper a stark reminder of the past she'd long tried to escape. With a deep breath, Sarah unfolded it, each word dragging her deeper into a vortex of uncertainty. An inheritance, she could hardly wrap her mind around the concept. The weight of potential freedom shimmered before her, yet the shadows of doubt whispered, taunting her with the real cost of seizing it. Jack's eager laugh floated from the other end of the diner, piercing through her distraction. He was alive with ideas, invigorated by possibilities. Sarah realized that, without her knowing, his light had illuminated paths she never dared to explore. She didn't want to suffocate under the burdens of a forgotten identity, yet the notion of stepping into something wholly new terrified her, like diving into the turbulent depths of a stormy sea. "Sarah, you good?" Jack's voice cut through her reverie, drawing her back to the cramped diner and its familiar chaos. There was concern etched across his face, a look that made her heart flutter as she forced a smile. But inside, she was a storm of conflict, longing to embrace his excitement while fearing her own inadequacies. "I got some news," she stammered, pushing the letter deeper into her apron pocket. Doubt gripped her, and she felt her voice falter as apprehension tightened its hold. "News? That's great! Let's hear it!" His enthusiasm coaxed a reluctant smile from her lips, but the gravity of the letter weighed heavily on her chest. Sharing it felt like entrusting him with a piece of her fractured soul. A moment hung in the air, stretching uncomfortably. Would revealing this inheritance expose her vulnerabilities? Could she transform her from a waitress in a diner to something more, something deserving the Jack's aspirations? As days dragged on, the prospect of the inheritance haunted her. Each time she met with Jack, fear contortara her gut. She was learning, growing, even becoming involved in community initiatives alongside him, yet the secrets she held threatened to unravel her newfound identity. Just then, visions of her old life clamored for attention. The voices filled her mind, reiterating her worthlessness, whispering that she didn't belong. The diner was a haven and a prison. Among the clattering dishes and comforts of regulars, the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. On good days, she considered the potential of her inheritance like a beacon, a chance to rewrite her narrative. Bad days, however, were riddled with self-doubt, where she envisioned the shameful whispers echoing as she declared herself ready to embrace an unknown future. One afternoon, a particularly slow shift brought thoughts to the forefront. Jack was sharing his vision again, discussing plans to open a learning center for underprivileged kids in town. The passion in his voice stirred something deep within her.
Who was she to hide in the shadows? "Why don't you come with me to that meeting tomorrow?" Jack asked suddenly, pulling her from her thoughts. "It's about setting everything in motion. Your insight would be invaluable." Her pulse quickened. "I'm not sure I can contribute much, Jack. You know my background. I'm just a waitress." The words felt heavy, escaping her mouth like a reluctant confession. "That's just it. You're one of the most dedicated people I've met. You know what they need. You've lived it," he countered. His gaze locked onto hers, urging her to step toward the precipice she'd been avoiding. For a moment, the weight in her chest shifted to an almost exhilarating lightness, a spark of possibility igniting within her. Could she truly offer a voice from the shadows? But as that flicker of hope danced, her fear reared its head. "Jack, I need to be honest about something," she began, the words trembling on her lips. Just then, a sudden commotion erupted as patrons buzzed with anticipation. An unexpected figure entered the diner, a lawyer, tall and imposing. The weight of the world seemed to shift yet again, drawing Sarah's attention like a magnet. "Sarah, I need to speak with you," the lawyer called, his face inscrutable. Her heart sank, realization dawning. Was this about the inheritance? The ground beneath her seemed to tremble with new possibilities, yet her previous fears swirled like a storm. As her hand instinctively gripped the pocket that held the letter, she faced the man who could change everything. This was the moment. Would she fight for the future or flee into the shadows of her own fear? The lawyer's steady gaze locked onto Sarah, piercing through her anxiety with a quiet authority. In that moment, the clamor of the diner faded away, leaving only the pounding of her heart echoing in her ears. Her entire world narrowed to this singular confrontation, illuminating the choice that lay ahead. "Will you come outside? We need to speak privately," he requested, his tone firm yet devoid of urgency. A part of her recoiled instinctively. The intertwining tendrils of doubt tightened around her. She was just a waitress. How could she possibly be prepared for this conversation? Yet, as the moments ticked away and Jack attempted to catch Sarah's eye amidst the surge of patrons, she felt a trickle of determination unfurl within her. Taking a deep breath, she rose from the booth with reluctant resolution, making her way toward the door, the letter's weight pulling at her pocket like a leaden anchor. Outside, the air was crisp, the diner's hustle quickly replaced with the heavy silence of early evening. The lawyer leaned against the weathered bricks, tapping his fingers against a folder. A simple gesture that seemed to hold an ocean of expectation within it. "Sarah," he began, his expression unreadable, "you've received an inheritance from your father." The words landed like heavy stones in her chest. Memories she tried to forget bubbled to the surface, intertwining with the immediate absurdity of her circumstance. Would this apparent freedom tie her closer to the very family she sought to escape? "I know this might be overwhelming," he continued, his voice tempered with professionalism. "But it opens new doors for you, financially and personally." "Yes, but," she stammered, wrestling with her thoughts, "I don't understand. Why now? I've spent years distancing myself from that part of my life. Each word pulled her deeper into an abyss. Was this just another chain binding her to a legacy she could never claim? Because you deserve the opportunity to shape your future, not be defined by your past. This inheritance doesn't just offer money, it's a chance to reclaim your identity, he countered, earning her respect with a simplistic honesty she had rarely encountered. Sarah's mind raced, battling ghosts long buried. Could this inheritance actually offer a departure from the shadows? A chance to leap from the sidelines into a life she had only dreamed as a distant possibility? Jack's voice echoed in her memory. You've lived it. Isn't it risky? Her heart pulsed with nerves. What if I can't handle it? Risk is inherent in change, but so is growth, he replied, meeting her gaze with unwavering clarity. You can choose to embrace your past or let it confine you. The weight of his words settled over her like a blanket of ice, stark and cold, but ultimately illuminating. Her choices had always been about survival. Now they had the potential to open doors she never considered. Just then, the swishing of the diner door slid open behind her, and Jack emerged into the evening light, concern etched across his features. "Sarah?"
Jack inquired, drawing closer to Sarah. She could sense his protective instinct flaring, fuelando her own courage as she faced the lawyer. "There are provisions set by your father," the lawyer replied, frowning as he flicked through the papers. "You must understand, he had unfinished business that involves you. Completing these requirements, often related to his will, could determine whether you access the full inheritance." Each word fell heavily into the silence. Sarah's thoughts spiraled inward as she wrestled with increasingly suffocating confusion. Her father, a figure synonymous with pain, had conditions for a legacy she never wanted. She shifted her weight, feeling the weight of the inheritance morph into chains. Would she be forced to confront her past to claim a future? "What business?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The lawyer looked from her to Jack, who remained at her side, offering unspoken support. "It seems your father had some investments tied to his estate. They require oversight and, perhaps, decisions that reflect his vision. You may even have to engage with other family members to fulfill your role." She hesitated. Family, just the mention of it sent icy fingers down her spine. How could she face relatives who had turned their back on her? Yet something deep within urged her to confront this challenge. "And if I refuse?" "Then the inheritance could be significantly diminished, or worse, lost entirely," he replied, his tone clipped. Her heart raced. The possibility of treasure versus the drudgery of digging up familial skeletons weighed against one another did not help dissipate her anxiety. Could she redefine her connection to a family she had tried to disown? Jack spoke up, his voice a grounding force that kept her tethered. "You don't have to do this alone, Sarah. This is about you, your choices, and how you want to shape that legacy." His words resonated, but for the first time doubt crept back in. "What if I fail?" she whispered, the scene of her past failures flashing before her eyes.
Failure is part of growth. What matters is how you respond to it, Jack insisted, his unwavering belief making her pulse quicken. Just then the lawyer interjected, trying to redirect her spiraling thoughts. You need to act within a time frame. The estate has specific deadlines to meet. You could gain wealth, but you cannot avoid the process. Tension gripped her chest as she considered the consequences. Each tick of the clock echoed like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. Did she want to miss this opportunity for something new, simply out of fear? A spark of determination flickered within her as she clenched her fists, but the fear of the unknown loomed larger than her resolve. Fine, she stated, forcing the words past the doubt. I'll take whatever steps are necessary. But I need assurance I won't navigate this blind. I need guidance.
Each tick of the clock seemed to count down to an unwelcome encounter with her past. What if they confronted her with accusations? What if they reminded her of every slight? As the lawyer finalized the arrangements, Sarah felt distant. Her thoughts spiraled inward, exploring the depths of her insecurities. Did she truly believe she could hold her ground against them? Inhaling sharply, she recalled Jack's words. This was not merely about her past. It was also about her future, a chance to redefine her legacy, but at what cost? Focus on what you can control, she muttered under her breath, resisting the wave of self-doubt engulfing her. She was in a pivotal moment, teetering between fear and the opportunity for transformation. Would she allow family shadows to dictate her life, or would she stand tall amidst the chaos? An idea flickered in her mind. Could we approach this strategically? Prepare for the meeting, game plan our responses. Jack inclined his head, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. Absolutely, Sarah. Know your points and be ready to counter their narratives. You've done hard things before. Confronting them will just be another challenge. The thought was empowering. She would no longer be a passive player in their lives. She could take the reins of her destiny. As they brainstormed, formulating a series of potential questions and responses, Sarah felt a growing fire within her, a rebellious spirit igniting at the notion that her family might no longer manipulate her identity. When they finished, she felt lighter, her path clearer. I'll face them and assert my perspective. I will earn this inheritance on my own terms. Just then, her phone buzzed again, startling her from her resolve. Another message, she said, eyes narrowing as she read the notification. It's from one of them. The revelation sent a shiver down her spine. The realization that they were very much alive in her life once more. This could be a tactical move or a genuine invitation. Either way, it required careful consideration. What does it say? Jack leaned closer, his focus absorbing her expression. It's an invitation to lunch at a family member's house. The weight of the words settled between them, pulsating with challenge and dread. Are you going to accept? He asked, his tone probing yet supportive. Her heart wavered as she considered. Taking this step meant voluntarily stepping back into the world she had tried to dissolve. Yet, if she intended to confront her past and reclaim her future, avoidance wasn't an option. I need to think about it, she replied, indecision coursing through her.
The air throbbed with anticipation. Jack's unwavering gaze urged her to lean in to the discomfort. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and blue, a different kind of determination gripped her heart.
This was no longer just about the inheritance. It was about her power to create new narratives and dismantle old ones. And as she pondered the invitation, grappling with her choices, one thought rang clear. Would she dare to embrace the gathering or shield herself from potential betrayal? The future loomed, a mountain of possibilities stacked against the burden of her past. But this time she would choose her path, not the ghosts that haunted her. The question remained, could she brave the storm that family reunions inevitably brought? And what revelations lay in waiting on the other side? The next morning, Sarah awoke with the sun streaming through her window, casting golden hues across her bedroom. She felt an unexpected rush of clarity, a stark contrast to the chaos gnawing at her insides the previous night. After careful consideration, she had decided to accept the lunch invitation. In choosing engagement over avoidance, she was stepping solidly into her power, an action echoing her commitment to reshape her narrative. She dressed with intention, selecting a navy blazer that felt both assertive and confident. As she adjusted the lapels, the reflection in the mirror revealed a woman who was ready to face her past, not merely as a figure cloaked in shame, but as someone worthy of the inheritance both materially and emotionally. Though the day was still young, her heart raced with each passing minute. This lunch could either be a well-rehearsed performance or a raw confrontation of vulnerabilities. What would they say? Questions swirled, but deep down she could feel a flicker of determination igniting with each breath. Jack had promised to drop by later, and she could feel his supportive presence even in his absence. This empowerment wasn't solely born from within. Jack's unwavering belief in her capabilities played a significant role. Before leaving, she scrolled through his messages from last night, documenting their brainstorming session. Their effort had built a strategy, yet she wanted more. It was crucial for her to fortify herself emotionally. As she made her way to the family member's house, the world outside seemed sharper, the colors more vivid. Each block brought forth memories, not just of her family, but of her identity. The little girl who once felt lost amidst the judgment of her relatives was still there, competing for space alongside the resolute woman she had become. Arriving at the modest suburban home, she felt the weight of her childhood settle around her like a heavy cloak. Each flower bed, each brick facade held whispers of her past, inviting both nostalgia and bitterness. She rang the doorbell, unsure of what awaited her on the other side. The door swung open, revealing her estranged cousin, Rachel, whose expression quickly shifted from surprise to a controlled cordiality. "Sarah, so good to see you," she said, though her tone hinted at underlying tension. System. Each propósito, each potencial parceria began to significar a sua contínua metamorfose. Uma mulher emergindo dos sábios, estaçando tanto em seu poder quanto em senso de céu.
That evening, encerrou-se com seu resolve cristalizando. Sentiu-se mais forte, emboldada. A fier que havia antes sufocado-a, now transformada em motivação. Yet beneath this newfound strength, ansioso nosso lingere. Was this resurgence truly her own, or was it a product of Jack's influence? As she left the café, a new question haunted her. What cost would she pay to truly own her identity? The lines between independence and reliance began to blur. As she navigated this uncertainty, she felt the lingering specter of her family's expectaciones weigh heavily once more. The next chapter of her life was poised to unfold, yet what awaited her might require unraveling deeper truths about her relationships, con both her family and herself. Would she find the clarity needed to steer through her contrasting desires? The time had come to face these pivotal decisions, where every step would build upon the now-found identity she was desperately trying to cultivate. The day of the meeting arrived with a mixed anticipation and dread swirling in Sarah's mind. She had spent countless hours strategizing con Jack, refining her vision and preparing herself for a confrontation. Each decision she made felt monumental, a step toward reclaiming not just a estate, mas her sense de self. Yet, as she dressed that morning, doubt curled around her thoughts like a vine, constricting her resolve. Her reflection in the mirror betrayed a woman who was still emergindo de cocooned layers de familiais expectaciones. The business attire she wore felt both empowering and alien. As she slipped on her blazer, she caught sight of the chandelier in the hallway, its light beautifully illuminating the stark contrast between the life her family envisioned for her and the one she desired to build. The drive to her family's estate was quiet, convulsing contention. Memories of childhood rushed back, the echoes de laughter, the warmth of family gatherings, interrupted by sharp reminders of the judgments that had since twisted and tarnished those moments. What had once felt like a safe haven now felt like a battlefield. As she parked, her heart raced, the adrenalina heightening her senses. She was on the cusp de thinning the veil that had long shrouded her identity. Entrando explorare o estado felt like stepping into a different realm. The smell of polished wood lingered no air, mas behind that she could detect the unmistakable scent they stifled ambition. The dining room was impeccably set, each plate strategically placed as to present a facade de harmony. Sarah's family sat around the table, their expressions masked, mas simmering with underlying tension. "Sarah, lovely to see you."
System.
Days ahead loomed dark and uncertain, fraught with confrontation and confrontation. Yet the question lingered. Was she strong enough to answer the call of her own identity without losing the family ties that once anchored her? The room awaited her response, each second stretching, heavy with the weight of expectation. She inhaled, ready to reclaim her narrative, ready to fight for her vision. The intensité in the dining room hung like a charged storm cloud, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved issues. Sarah could feel her breath shallow, her pulse a hard drumbeat echoing in her ears. It was as if they were a tableau of past grievances and future aspirations frozen in time, anticipation thickening in the air. She had stepped beyond the confines of the life her family envisioned, daring to envision something new. Yet the price of that daring felt insurmountable. "Valuable?" she echoed, allowing incredulity to color her tone. "What does value even mean to you? It's not simply about preserving brick and mortar. It's about creating something that lives, that breathes outside of us. What is this estate, if not an opportunity to thrive beyond our narrow perspectives?" As the silence deepened, she could see the incredulous glances exchanged amongst her family, a response she had anticipated, but now found strangely invigorating. The seeds of doubt that had sprouted before arriving here began to wither in the face of her resolve. Each disapproving expression lifted her spirits and solidified her determination. "Let's take a step back," her mother suggested, her voice barely masking the quiver that betrayed her anxiety. "You're speaking about change as if it's simple. You lack the experience, and this is not a small venture." "A venture you would control, isn't that right?" Sarah shot back, temper bubbling to the surface. The realization of being trapped in a cycle fueled by her family's expectations sparked fire within her. "What I lack in experience, I make up for in vision. I refuse to see this estate as an artifact of a bygone era. Why hang on to remnants from a past we can't relate to anymore?" A flicker of surprise crossed her mother's face, and for just a moment Sarah saw something akin to understanding ignite in her eyes. But it vanished just as quickly, replaced by a wave of defensiveness. "The past shapes us, Sarah. You can't just dismiss it." "Dismiss? I'm not dismissing anything," she replied, her voice rising with passion. "But holding on too tightly is suffocating me. I need to find my path, not be bound by a vision that has never been mine." The confrontation was electric, each sentence serving to pull the threads of family ties taut, creating an unsettling tension. Yet in that tension, Sarah felt a certain empowerment she'd never experienced. It was a raw acknowledgment of her own voice that had so long been silenced beneath layers of familial obligation.
The adrenalina coursou through suas veias like an anthem, urgendo-a a soldar forte. As her father prepared to retort, she realized this was not just a battle for the estate. It was a fight for her very identity, something that had eroded beneath years the appeasement. Her role had been that of the dutiful daughter, the support to her family's legacy. Now she was ready to assert her own narrative. "And more than just asserting it, I want to build it," Sarah continued. "This estate deserves to transform into something meaningful, impactful. It can bridge generations rather than merely house memories." Her uncle's scoff echoed through the dining room, the contempt palpable. "You think you can turn this into some trendy co-op? It's a legacy, not a playground." "Why not?" she challenged, heart pounding as new ideas unfurled within her. What if this estate could become a creative incubator, a place where ideas breed and innovation flourishes? Imagine inviting artists, thinkers, dreamers into our space. The heritage you speak of could evolve, leaving behind a legacy that invites progress rather than stifles it. For the first time, a glimmer of uncertainty crossed her uncle's face, and she seized that moment. "Don't you see? My proposal seeks to honor our past by imagining a future where this estate can thrive with purpose. Your heritage, my vision." But the faces surrounding her continued to harden. Could she reshape a legacy when the very foundation was against her? The crumbling walls she felt built around her were in jeopardy of collapsing entirely. Yet, in that moment of uncertainty, clarity struck. Sarah knew she had two choices: bend and break to the weight of expectation, or step boldly into the unknown. As she processed her next move, a wave of fear washed over her. What if breaking free from her family's expectations meant losing them altogether? Would she be willing to pay the price of her freedom with isolation? The room remained charged, her family's skepticism hanging in the air, waiting for her to show weakness or falter. But she felt a resolve deep within her, a burgeoning sense of self that would not easily disperse. "Perhaps I can show you," she whispered, almost to herself. In that moment, she had a glimpse of the potential within her to weave her vision into reality despite their resistance. And as that certainty washed over her, she knew the confrontation had started. But it was only the beginning. With the estate looming behind her and her family in front of her, Sarah realized that redefining her identity wasn't merely an act of rebellion. It was an essential journey she had to chart alone. What awaited her was still largely unknown, but the reality was inescapable. The moment had come for Sarah to truly claim her narrative. Implications be damned. But at what cost would her reclamation come?
What buried truths and family secrets lay beneath the surface, waiting for some moment to resurface and challenge everything she just unearthed? Amid the loaded silence of her family's dining room, Sarah felt a quiet empowerment spiraling from the depth of her conviction. The stakes had been driven home. Her father's expectations collided violently with her vision, yet she stood firm, resolute against the tides of judgment that had once swept her under so decisively. This was the pivotal moment she had envisioned, the confrontation where past sins connected to her identity could finally unravel. "I can show you," her words echoed in the room, a declaration seated in conviction. Perhaps we need more than mere heritage. We can cultivate a legacy that honors our values in a contemporary context. Her family's expressions were a mosaic of surprise and anger, but behind the contempt she detected a glimmer of uncertainty. They had long relied on her quiet compliance, yet here she was, articulating a vision, not as a meek voice in the background, but as a contender demanding the narrative shift. As her father began to retort, she took a deliberate breath, silencing his words before they could slip from his lips. "Let's engage, not dictate. Allow me to present my plans. I've invested hours crafting a blueprint for how this estate can function as a community hub, one that can uplift individuals, connect the lost, and fuel the growth of those who walk through its doors." Dare she evoke their curiosity? Could her willingness to step beyond the shadow of familial expectations penetrate their hardened hearts? The tension in the room was palpable, but so was the gentle pulse of resolve growing within Sarah. I want to seek investors, collaborate with local artists, and open the estate to a variety of initiatives. Educational workshops, performance art spaces, even health programs. This estate can thrive, but not as a relic of our ancestry. It can flourish as a sanctuary for progress. Her uncle raised an eyebrow. Skepticism thickened into palpable disbelief. You think you can simply change everything with some trendy ideas? This isn't just your playground. For the first time, anger surged within her, fusing with her determination. It can be a place of empowerment, she countered, emotion steady but fierce. I am not proposing a whimsical endeavor. I am advocating foundational change. It's about time we embrace growth rather than cling to the ashes of our past. The effects of her words rippled through her family. Their expressions began to soften. Sarah pushed forth, fueled not only by ambition, but also by the hope that her voice could inspire others. Let's form a committee, a collaboration with everyone here. I want to hear your ideas, your reservations, your recommendations, she proposed, feeling the tether of possibility wrap around her heart like an invigorating wave. Jack's words flickered in her mind. You don't have to navigate this alone.
Through a dei sentimento, she shifted the narrative from an adversarial exchange to a collaborative vision. It was time to give them a stake in the vision she sought to create. You mean you want us involved? Greer stumbled over the words, surprise flickering across her features. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, relief washing over her as she turned the tide. You speak of values. Let's define what that means for our family together. I believe in this, and I want your input to ensure it's aligned with our name. Emboldened, Sarah felt the weight of years slipping away, replaced with a promise of opportunity. Here was the bridge, the foundation of progress she had longed to build. A subtle shift in the atmosphere occurred as quiet murmurs coursed through the room, discussions sparked by the prospect of collective ownership. They debated and suggested ideas, the dialogue weaving tighter instead of fracturing apart. Conversations about reputation and heritage intertwined with the burgeoning vision, and Sarah found herself at the heart of a transformative dialogue. In that moment, she understood the true value of her inheritance. It wasn't simply a parcel of land or a collection of assets. It was the chance to steer the narrative into a realm of collaborative innovation. However, she knew each triumph would come with its own set of challenges. By dismantling her fears, she was ultimately defining who she was, not just as a beneficiary of an estate, but as an architect of her identity. As the lunchtime discussion drifted toward solutions, promises, and commitments, Sarah experienced a shift. She had progressed from a place of perceived vulnerability into an emerging power, one steeped in authenticity. Her father's expression, once aloof, softened marginally as the realization dawned upon him. His daughter was not the timid child he believed she was, but a formidable force, unafraid to break boundaries. With each step in the conversation, the legacy began to transform from a constricting weight into a shared responsibility. What had once felt like an oppressive mantle morphed into a vibrant umbrella under which diverse futures could flourish.
The meeting concluded, but it marked not an end, but a new beginning. As Sarah left the estate that day, a world opened up before her, one rich with possibility, colored by the collaboration she had envisioned. She understood that confronting and embracing the complexities of her past did not signify an abandonment of those who had walked with her. Rather, it represented her journey to make space for everyone to walk with her into a brighter tomorrow. As she drove home, exhilaration enveloped her heart like a warm embrace, igniting every pulse with the thrill of new paths being forged. She had taken control, crafted a narrative of her own making, and she wasn't stopping now. The journey forward would not be without its trials or complicated decisions, but she could brace for that.
Reclaiming her identity meant navigating the ebbs and flows of familial relationships, understanding that while expectations could weigh heavy, it was growth that ultimately paved the way. As the setting sun painted the sky in fiery golds and deep purples, Sarah felt a calm declaration settle within her. She had crossed a threshold, one that led towards the life she intended to cultivate. There remained layers to peel, complexities to unravel, but now each step felt affirmational, echoing the potent truth behind her aspirations. The shadows of her past could no longer tether her, and she stood at the helm of her destiny, empowered, ready to conquer whatever lay ahead. Embrace your legacy, she reminded herself, but design it to include every part of who you are and who you aspire to become. As the horizon drew nearer, she felt reassured. Every challenge past and present shaped not just her inheritance, but the architect she was destined to be in this transformative journey. Now is the moment. Don't miss any exclusive emotional stories awaiting you. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a world of difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspiring conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. You need to share it. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second.